right. Thanks everybody for being here. We're really excited, really humbled to be here tonight to play some music for you. This is Julio Cheto on bass. This is Javier Santiago on keys. My name is Michael Mitchell. Welcome to Mr. Tipple's live stream. We're gonna play a little music for you, some mix of originals, and some jazz standards we hope you enjoy. See you on the other side.
Resilience by Javier Santiago. Resilience. Share the link.
And look better. Michael Mitchell on drums. If you click the link in my bio, you would know all this. Thanks for watching.
B5 faux fum.
B5 Faux Fun by the great Wayne Shorter. Feel good about it?
Feeling real good about it. Link in bio, guys. Click the link in bio.
Share the link if you can. Tell your friends.
Share it. Sharing it again right now, just cause.
Oh, I start this.
No, you start.
You want to start?
You all start. Start together.
Okay.
getting hot in here. Thanks everybody who's watching right now. Appreciate you tuning in. in Alma. Busy Gillespie, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or wait, I wrote Ray Bryant. Dizzy Gillespie totally is. Totally is. Thank you for checking that.
Let's do one more.
One more, cool.
Yeah.
Play one last tune by Javier for this set. We got another set coming up after a short break, and the stream stays up during the break, right?
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
a cocktail break.
So we got a cocktail break coming up after this tune. Stay tuned, keep watching, and we'll be right back after a little bit. But here's Javier Santiago's Alive.
Julio Xavier Cheto on bass, Javier Santiago on piano. My name is Michael Mitchell. Thank you all so much for tuning into that first set. Just really quick to give a moment and honor this movement that's happening around us. We're super humbled to be here to share the message with you. And, it's the first time that we've been able to make a contribution together as a group. And it's, almost leaving me a little bit speechless, but I'm really grateful to Jay and Roger, Mr. Tipples, for having us here. I'm really grateful to live in the Bay Area where a lot of action is being taken. And really quick, just a shout to Minneapolis, to George Floyd. Breonna Taylor, happy 27th birthday. And, we want peace and justice, and we want it for these families. We want it now. And we mean that with as much love as we have. So please, please donate, give to the organizations that are fighting this good fight.
Get out in the street.
If you feel it, come out and show your support.
Protest.
I
wasn't here. That's where I'd be.
Yeah. And come find us out there. And we love you all so much. And we'll see you on that next set. Thanks again.
Stick around.
Hi guys, welcome back to Mr. Tipples. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm glad that you were all able to join us for some live music. We are definitely enjoying it, and I hope you are as well. Tonight, we're going to be doing a little cocktail demonstration. I'm just going to go over a very classic cocktail, the martini. I'm going to be making one martini for you in particular, but I just want to talk a little bit about martinis, how you should order them, what the different terms mean, as it is one of the oldest cocktails, and it has a ton of different variations. There's some terminology that might be a little bit confusing to people, and so we'll talk a bit about that and just what sort of flavors you're going to get out of different styles of martini. So the first thing to keep in mind with a martini, it's a very, very simple drink. It really is just basically two ingredients. You've got your gin or vodka and a dry vermouth. Now, there are other variants that include other ingredients, which I'll talk about a little bit, but your classic martini is, again, just your base spirit and just some dry vermouth. What that means is all the variation comes in which gin you pick, which vermouth you pick. Vodka, that's going to stay more or less consistent as long as you're using a high quality vodka, which I highly recommend. But you're going to get a ton of variation just based off of the other ingredients. So the most classic style of martini is a London dry gin. In this case, we're using Beefeater, which, as far as your classic London dries, is pretty much right down the middle. So what you're getting out of that is some nice sort of floral complexity, but not super prevalent on the floral part, because what you're really getting is mostly the juniper. And a hallmark of any dry style is that you're getting a lot of that spirit, that alcohol flavor. It's going to be super prevalent, and that's exactly what you're looking for with a martini. We are using Dolan Dry Vermouth. Now, basically the difference between a dry and a sweet vermouth, you'll also see sweet vermouth sometimes referred to as rouge, which is the case for Dolan specifically. And it's basically whether it was created from white wine grapes or red wine grapes. And the main difference that you're going to get is, of course, as the name implies, dry vermouth has a very sort of dry, even flavor to it, and you're getting more of the other flavorings that are added to that wine, as opposed to a sweet vermouth, which does have a lot of complexity to it, but also adds a lot of sweetness, which is generally not what you're looking for when you're making a martini. A martini should be very, very boozy. Your classic martini also includes the addition of an olive. Now, if you want to do olive juice, that is totally acceptable and pretty normal. It's been a pretty traditional way to order a martini in America for a long time. And what that's going to do is add that kind of extra savory element. Okay, so it tends to mesh quite well, particularly with your drier gins, such as the Beefeater here. And if you want to do that, that's what a dirty martini is. If you want it extra dirty, just say extra dirty. If you order it filthy, most bartenders will probably just make it with a lot of olive juice. However, actually, in real bartender terminology, a filthy martini means you're adding onion juice. So that is kind of a weird little trick. Again, most bartenders know what you mean, but filthy does technically mean you want onion juice as opposed to olive juice. Now, the vodka martini has become super popular. At this point, in America particularly, it is probably the most popular style of martini ordered. Really what you're getting when you order a vodka martini is very, very cold vodka flavored with just a little bit of vermouth. Now, a classic martini is actually a 1 to 2. So you're going to do maybe 1 ounce of your vermouth and 2 ounces of your spirit. However, almost no bar that you're going to find anywhere in the world today is going to make your martini with that ratio. That is far more vermouth than almost anybody ever uses. You're really looking at probably more like a 1/2 ounce to 2 ounces of your spirit. And some places will even traditionally do it even drier than that. However, if you really don't like vermouth or you don't want a lot of that vermouth flavor, you want to order your martini dry. Dry just means less vermouth. Why is it dry? Well, dry with alcohol is associated with higher alcohol flavor. And so when you include less vermouth, you reduce the viscosity and you up the just alcohol content of the liquid in the glass in general. Now, if you want it with more vermouth, then you would order it wet. Some bartenders and servers may not actually know that terminology, and you might just want to tell them extra vermouth, but if you are at a bar where you think that the bartender probably knows, go ahead, order yourself a wet martini. All right, moving on. So these are sort of your most standard and traditional variants on a martini, nothing really complicated there. This is something just a little bit different. So this is Nolets. Now, what is different about this is just the style of gin that it is. And that is really, like I said, going to change the flavor profile of your gin. All gins and all vermouths are proprietary. They're all different. You're going to get different results out of each one. But what is distinct about Nolets, as well as a few other gins, is that it actually doesn't use any juniper. So the flavor profile you're getting is really crisp and dry and really nice and floral. It's not fruity at all. And so it's not sweet at all, which means the inclusion of some dry vermouth actually really enhances a lot of those flavors because it does add a sort of tartness and a little bit of sweetness that complements the Nolets really, really nicely. And the reason that I also brought this up is because there's another variation on a martini, very simple, that I highly recommend if you are doing a drink like this with a lot of floral notes and not as much of the fruit. And that is do it with a twist as opposed to an olive. Most servers or bartenders will ask you twist or olive. So for that one, that's what I would recommend. Similar to now a Hendrick's martini, a similar sort of idea where it doesn't use juniper and the flavor profile trends more toward cucumber. So actually, it's pretty common if you get a Hendrick's martini that they will use cucumber as the garnish. And keep in mind that the garnish is not just for decoration. Garnish really does add an extra flavor element, usually an aromatic element, which does impact the way that it hits your mouth and the way that it kind of hits your palate. Moving on, we wanted to talk a little bit about a local spirit that we have here, made in San Francisco, or actually made in Alameda, but very close by, and that is St. George's. Now, St. George at this point is world-renowned. They make absolutely fantastic products. They have a fairly wide line, everything from absinthe to a single malt whiskey that's also quite excellent, and their gin is really their flagship product. Their terroir is quite popular, and in this instance, I have their Botanivore. Now, the reason that I brought this one out is it's a really nice, soft flavor. Again, a lot of really floral botanicals. And what I think this goes really nicely with is something called a perfect martini, or you could call it a 50-50 martini. But basically what it is you're going to use equal parts sweet and dry vermouth. So if you were ordering a perfect martini, you're not going to order it dry. Because dry means less vermouth, and that's not really what you're looking for with a perfect martini. So if you don't like vermouth, just go with dry. Don't bother with the perfect. However, what you're looking for with your gin, if you're doing a perfect martini, is one that the sweetness is really going to complement the other flavors. So you want a kind of softer gin, which this St. George Botanivore fits that profile perfectly. And then Some other variations that you can do, a Gibson, that is basically just a standard martini, but instead of an olive or a twist, it's going to be with a little cocktail onion. A nice, different sort of savory note, and it's a little spicy too. It's kind of an interesting flavor. So that can really be delightful, particularly again with a drier gin. I like that personally because I don't like olives, and I think that it still fits that same sort of mold and works really well if you don't like the olive flavor. Now you can order it extra, extra dry, which basically just ends up with no vermouth at all, at which point you're basically just getting really chilled spirit in a glass. So we're gonna go ahead and make one. I'm gonna do my personal favorite, which is a Nolet's Martini, and I think actually the Dolan Dry Vermouth really suits this particular one quite well. So I'm gonna do a 2-ounce pour of my Nolet's. Now Nolet's is a little bit of a pricier product, but you absolutely get your money's worth out of it. Plus it comes with this really cool bottle with a nice, very heavy cap. Makes a nice little souvenir. And I'm going to do a 1/2 ounce of our vermouth. That is my preference. Now, the true secret to a properly made martini is, of course, chilling. So we have our ice set aside here. I let it sit out in some room temperature air so it can temper a little bit. That way when I add it to the liquid, it doesn't just crack apart. And whenever you are stirring your drink, you want to make sure that you use a lot of ice. Now I know it looks like that liquid is only coming up a little bit on here, but watch what happens when I start stirring it. You're gonna stir for about 30 seconds, or 30 rotations, or however you want to count it. And if you're not sure, you want to feel the outside of the glass and see if it feels cold. Now keep in mind that you basically can't over stir, because at some point the alcohol that's in the glass gets to be about the freezing temperature of water, because alcohol has a lower freezing temperature, so it will just kind of sit at that level. Eventually it'll melt, the ice will melt a little bit just from the air from the outside, but for the most part, I would err on the side of stirring more rather than stirring less. If you ever have a martini that you think just isn't that good, it is probably because it was not stirred quite long enough and it was not as cold as it ought to be. Particularly with something as spirit forward as a martini, you really need that dilution from the ice, and you really need it to be nice and cold so that it doesn't overwhelm your palate with heat. I think we're getting there. So you see how the liquid now, the ice is completely submerged, and you don't have any big chunks of ice sticking up over the top. It really does melt down quite a bit, quite fast, but that's exactly what you're looking for. And you can actually see, I'm not sure if you can really tell, but there's frost forming on the outside of my mixing glass, which is how you know that we are at a good temperature. Take our julep strainer here. Pour. Now again, as this is a Nolet's Martini, and you should see it nice and clear, this is hallmark of any traditional martini using dry vermouth. Might be just a little cloudy, but for the most part, it should be pretty clear. And my lemon peel. Now when you add your fruit peel garnish, you want to make sure that you don't peel it too close to the fruit. You don't want to get a lot of that pith in there because that's actually pretty bitter and that will end up affecting the flavor. And then you're going to take it with the shiny side of the fruit facing down towards your drink, and you're just going to squeeze it over top. And you can actually see it. It will release oils that are going to sit right on top of the drink and just add a little extra aromatic quality of lemon to it. Just nice and fresh. There you go. Cheers. All right, guys. I think the musicians are just about done their break, so they are going to get back on stage, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Have a great night.
All right. Welcome back, one and all.
Welcome.
This is Mike Mitchell Trio, streaming live from Mr. Tipples in San Francisco on a blustery San Francisco evening. We hope that everybody is safe and healthy out there. In here we have Julio Xavier Cheto on bass.
Hello, everyone.
We have the multi-instrumentalist, composer, Minneapolis' own Javier Santiago on piano. Special thank you to Jay and Roger here at Tipples for making this happen. Cheers to you guys. Thanks to everybody who stuck around from the first set. If anybody is new to us right now, we appreciate you joining. We're going to start with one of Javi's originals. This is called A Second Chance, also known as A New Beginning.
Also known as Lincoln Bio.
Second Chances by Javier Santiago.
I wonder if that fell at the same moment I hit myself in the face with my drumstick and dropped it. All right. All right. Ooh. All right. We're going to move backwards a little bit. I'm going to pick up the microphone. We're going to go back in time just a little bit. We're going to play a blues by the legendary alto saxophonist Charlie Parker. Blues feel fairly appropriate for the moment. We're just gonna sit in it for a minute. This one's a little more bouncy, So hopefully it reflects that energy. Once again, appreciate y'all. Javi Santiago piano, Julio Xavier. Apparently link in bio, whatever that means. just link in the bio, everyone.
It's for the Instagram
Link in
audience.
Just link it.
Why? Because the sound is a lot better.
As you can see, those of you who are watching, the sound's a lot better and the video's a lot better. So, go to the link in bio.
Come to Facebook. Come to the dark side.
Yeah. All right, so here we go with Relaxin' at Camarillo by Charlie Parker.
good to play.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
So the last time I was here was my very last live performance before COVID. We were talking about this during the break. And I think one of the last, y'all were playing here duo, right?
Yep.
Right. So, yeah, we have been used to playing with each other maybe like once a week, if
Yeah.
not more.
Definitely.
Shaking a little bit of that rust off. For those of you who know us, we apologize for that rust. And it'll be fully finished and done with us as soon as we leave the building tonight. So, Relaxing at Camarillo, Charlie Parker, shout out to Grant Levin. Big,
Teach me that song.
big time into that
Sounds good.
blues. Jay, how we doing on time? Okay. Okay, cool.
That would be.
Shout out Christina Galisatis. She's texted me. Good job, period.
You can share the link, and you can donate.
Yes.
You
Don't
guys
forget to
know.
donate, folks.
Yeah, and again, or maybe not again if this is the first time this has been said, but
Tag your friends.
feel free if you want to donate towards us. We appreciate you. If you want to donate towards a cause that you believe is, putting their money where their mouth is in terms of where we are right now as a country and as a community, please feel free to do that. If you want to do it in our name, do it in anyone's name, just do it. Help all of us out. We're going to move on and move back to the compositions of our pianist, Javi Santiago. This first time we played this particular tune, Javi and I were still, I think, in college, and Javi was working this tune out, and you were playing the upright piano in my living room, and our friend JJ was there, and that piano's about a quarter step out of tune, and JJ adjusted somehow, and we played this tune, and I never forgot this melody. It had been Untitled 1 for a good long time, probably until we wound up out here together,
Definitely.
which is almost 10, maybe like somewhere between 7 and 10 years later, something like that. So this is a melody that really lives within us. This one is called Gaia's Warning.
Untitled number 1.
rest. More rest off, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I meant to say.
definitely.
Oof, apologies for swallowing into the microphone. Okay. Jay, what do we think? One or two?
Let's do one more.
Okay. Damn. It's a big difference between these last two.
What's the last one?
We have Central Park West, and we have Fearless. I feel like Fearless. We got to go out with Fearless.
Okay.
Once again, thank you everybody who is still here. Thank you to those that stuck with us through the first set. Thank you to those that were here for only a minute. Whatever you could give, we appreciate you in terms of time and energy. Whatever you can give us in terms, your generosity. We really appreciate you. Again, happy 27th birthday, Breonna Taylor. Yeah, justice for George Floyd, and for all. This last tune is appropriately titled Fearless, written once again by our pianist and composer extraordinaires, Javi Santiago, Gilo Xavier Cheto on bass. A shout out and thank you again to Mr. Tipples, to Roger and Jay for having us. Yeah, let's everybody be kind to one another. Yeah. Just be kind to one another, and we love you. This is Fearless. Javi. Thank you, Julio.
Anytime.
Roger and Jay at Tipples. Thank you, Maggie, my beautiful wife. Thank you, baby Eve.
Shout out to baby Eve.
You know, for Michael Mitchell on the drums.
Yeah, give
Michael
it up
Mitchell
for
on the
Mike
drums.
Mitchell. Thanks for calling us.
Thank you for everybody coming and checking us out. Thank you for giving your time, your energy, out of your pocket. Thanks for giving what you can. We'll see you next time, which we hope is sooner than rather than later. Till then, peace.